Hello and welcome to today's investor briefing with Novatti Group Managing Director Peter Cook. It's terrific to see that we've got so many people online already. We've actually got over 200 people registered, with people attending from the United States, China, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, and the UK. So Novatti is very much a global company with a fair bit of reach based on how many people we've got tuning in from around the world. My name is Alfred Chan. I'm from Emerald Financial, and I've offered to host the session for Peter, who has prepared a brief presentation on Novatti's FY20 results and plans for FY21. I'll just run through some quick formalities. After the session, Peter's going to be taking questions from everyone in attendance. For those of you viewing from a computer, there's a sidebar on the left-hand side of your screen where you can type questions into the Q&A box. And for those attending with a mobile or tablet, your sidebar is at the bottom. And again, it just says Q&A. Tick that and you'll get a text box. We've got a lot of new names here on the session, many of which have joined the Novatti share registry recently. But for anyone not familiar with Peter, he has more than 25 years of experience in the technology and payments industry, as well as being the original founder of Novatti Group and one of the largest shareholders. Look, I won't take up any more of Peter's time. So Peter, FY20, it's been the most significant year in Novatti's history. So I'll hand over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Alfred, and thank you everyone for joining. My name is Peter Cook and I'm the Managing Director of Novatti. Today I'd like to run you through some of our performance highlights from financial year 20 and also a summary of our objectives for financial year 21, and then I'd really welcome some questions at the end. In terms of a disclaimer, the material contained in this document is a presentation of general information about Novatti and its current as at today. So, financial year 20 performance highlights. I will be talking through these figures in more detail throughout the presentation, but we really did want to highlight what a great year it's been. As you can see, these figures speak to the size of Novatti today. In processing more than $2 billion of transactions annually, but also the long-term growth journey we're on, having grown our revenues by an average of about 50% per annum for the last 3 years, and in fact, over the last year, growing our gross transaction value by about 60% year on year. And that's what we're seeking to achieve for shareholders: long-term consistent growth in our transaction volumes, our revenues, and of course, all leading to profit. Many of you are familiar with Novatti's business, but just as a reminder, we really are a leading digital banking and payments company. We want to use our technology and platforms to empower our customers as we shift to a cashless society. Over the past few years, we've been really methodically developing and acquiring the capabilities to provide consumers with a fully digital banking service. As you can see from the diagram, this is really shown in 3 different key parts of our business: transaction processing, card issuing, and payment acquiring. These business lines can each stand on their own, but together they complement each other and provide us with a strong platform for growth. The business is really structured this way to take advantage of the enormous societal shift towards becoming cashless. Some years ago, we would have jokingly asked, when was the last time you used a cheque? The reality is, and the question is fast becoming, when was the last time you used cash? And I think COVID has really exacerbated and driven that behaviour much more so. As this chart shows, cards have already overtaken cash, and we absolutely believe the shift away from cash will only accelerate. How does Novatti make money? We primarily make money by providing the technology and platforms that enable payment transactions to take place. And then we capture these ongoing transactions and recurring revenues with a processing-focused model that benefits from increased transactions, increased business partners, and just this general increased demand of consumers, businesses, merchants to process more efficiently and digitally. Now on to our financial performance for the financial year 2020. Despite COVID-19, FY20 was a strong year for our overall business, with total revenue increasing 33% to $11.86 million. But most importantly for us, we've now achieved an average total revenue increase of around 50% each year for the past 3 years. The consistent growth is what we're really focused on achieving, driving the top line gross transaction value and then bringing through stronger revenue growth. Our processing business continues to be the key growth driver. Whilst transaction values grew 60% for the financial year, leading to revenue from processing of more than $6.5 million, we're now processing more than $2 billion of gross transaction value or financial transactions and really focused on driving strong growth here. Cash flow. Our cash flow continues to improve. Throughout the year, there was a strong focus on strengthening this cash flow to the point where net cash used was just $16,000 in the June quarter. However, our core focus going forward absolutely remains on using cash to drive growth. The $10.2 million capital raising was a key part of this. Post the fundraising, Novatti had more than $12 million in cash available, which sees our current growth strategy fully funded. We'll continue to focus on using this cash to seek out larger, more strategic opportunities to fuel our growth. And those opportunities will be both inorganic growth and of course, we're starting to see larger and larger deals being presented to us as we become a more significant company. And related to that, as people see the strength of our balance sheet and just the capabilities of the company. On to our operational performance. A key operational highlight was the launch of our Visa card issuing business. This was the culmination of a multi-year development campaign and followed Novatti being awarded a principal issuer license by Visa in September 2019. As a result, Novatti can now issue and distribute Visa payment cards, which will help us capitalise on this broader shift away from cash. We're already seeing significant transaction being gained from this business, including with international payments leaders seeking out Novatti for partnership. With other partnerships, it was again a very successful year. We see our partnerships as really a lead indicator of Novatti being able to expand its business and pull forward transactions and revenue. Across the year, we formed partnerships with Visa, Alipay, Marqeta, Rent.com.au and Decta, to name a few. Notably, Marqeta from the US is already a partner of Afterpay, Square, Uber, Affirm, Instacart and DoorDash, and has issued around 140 million payment cards. And we are their partner in Australia for issuing cards here. Likewise, our subsidiary China Payments was integrated into global giant Alipay's main app and for providing bill payment services from Chinese consumers to pay Australian bills. These sorts of partnerships really highlight the strength of Novatti to be able to do these sorts of major deals. We made a particularly strategic acquisition during the year in immersion. The team, led by its founder Paul Dundas, combines diverse business applications, including subscription billing, payments and provisioning, into existing platforms to save users time and money. Immersion has really hit the ground running, has been smoothly integrated, and the performance is already exceeding our expectations. Financial year 21 is expected to be another strong year for Immersion. Again, we're using some of the cash we've raised to be able to resource them to drive growth, and we expect significant international or global partnerships and increasing expansion from them. On to the development of our borderless digital-only neobank. Throughout the year, we've been working with the Australian banking regulator, APRA, for approval for this business. And as we've previously announced, these approvals were initially paused in April until October, and then recently that hiatus has been extended until March. Notwithstanding this, we're absolutely focused on developing this business, and essentially we are building our customers and partner base to ensure that we are ready to launch in a strong way. The banking business is absolutely a core growth priority for us going forward, so we will continue to update on the progress during this year. Our key objectives for next year. We are super excited for financial year 21 with a capital base and a staffing base that should be able to ensure success. We've faced the deepest challenges, hopefully, of COVID-19, and we are funded to drive our growth strategy. Related to that, we'll be pursuing larger, more strategic growth opportunities. In particular, we'll be seeking to expand our core processing business, driving continual strong revenue growth. We will deliver many new strategic partnerships to expand our reach, and will continue to build our payments banking services as we continue to develop the digital neobank. We strongly believe that the shift to a cashless society is well underway, and we will be a major part of it. Our details are shown here. As always, please feel free to reach out to me. It's great to engage with our investors. And if you haven't, please subscribe to our newsletter so we can continue to update you on our movements. Thank you very much for participating today, and I'd be really happy to take questions. Alfred, if you've got any questions, thank you.
Excellent, Peter. Thank you very much for that very informative presentation. Great to see so much happening behind closed doors. We've already got quite a few questions coming in, but if anyone in attendance does have any, please just press that Q&A button on your sidebar and just type them into the chat box. All right, Peter, I'll get straight into it. Peter, we've got a question from Shane. Please outline how the revenue from each partnership is growing year on year.
Okay, so one of the great things about a payments business is that essentially there tends to be, let's say you sign up a payments partner or a client today, there is then an onboarding time, and then, you know, it might be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to onboard that partner. Then you start to get revenues. Then over time, as your partners get bigger and they're acquiring more customers, essentially you might look at it as the back book, but the growth in that existing channel continues. So as we build these partnerships, there might be X dollars of revenue this financial year, and then there should be X dollars plus Y% of revenue through the same partnership next year.
Thanks, Peter. Just as a follow-on question from Chris, is Novatti increasing its recurring revenue?
Yeah, so if you look at our revenue from this year, or from the year just past, essentially most of it in one way or another is recurring. So it's either true recurring revenue where someone signed a contract, and some of our older technology sales are in that form where people are paying maintenance and support contracts or whatever. Others are relationships where people are paying monthly fees to be a part of our network or for us to provide services. And then some of them are more transaction oriented, so technically not recurring, but recurring in nature. So the vast majority of our revenues now are in that form.
Thanks, Peter. I've got a couple of people asking about buy now, pay later. So Shane and Sadie, I'll group your questions together. How's that buy now, pay later SaaS agreement with UK Slice Payments going?
Yes. So at the moment we have two. So we've built a whole lot of technology around buy now, pay later, and it's quite mature. So we have two, let's call it customers or partners at the moment. One is was called Slice Payments, now called Split Pay in the UK. They have recently commercially launched, and we are both a shareholder in that company. I think at the moment we're about 12% shareholding, and we also get transaction fees and services fees for providing the technology to them, and that business is sort of underway. We also are a technology provider and get transaction fees from a company out of Queensland that is providing buy now, pay later into the property sector, essentially with two segments within that. One is buy now, pay later for companies for real estate agents to help, for a seller of a property to get buy now, pay later for the marketing costs when they sell their property. And then the second product or market segment is for landlords who use buy now, pay later to fund the, say repairs and maintenance that come up on short notice. So, and then I'll say that we are also in negotiations with others for us to enter other markets as ongoing business development.
Thanks, Peter. I've got a couple of questions here regarding profitability. Harold and Mark have asked, when is Novatti planning to make a profit?
Okay, so first of all, that's in a compliance sense, that's a forward-leading question that I can't accurately go to, but I think you'll see that we've been able to draw together our, reduce our negative EBITDA, and last quarter we were essentially very close to cash break even. But if you look at it, we've just raised funds against growth, and we are aiming for a high growth strategy, and so we would expect to use those funds to increase our staff and essentially bring on more revenue and more partners as quickly as possible. So you can impute from that we want to be there or thereabouts, but we're not formally forecasting on that profit point.
Thanks, Peter. That I'll just include that, as a few people have also asked, can you provide guidance for FY21? I hope that answers your question there for those people that have asked that one.
Yeah, so maybe if I can just go back on providing guidance, it would be if we were we are so focused on driving growth and transitioning the business to being a much larger company that it just wouldn't be the right thing for us to be talking to the market about right now.
No worries. I've got a question here from Chris. Peter, do all the payment functions you have brought together under the holding company, do they all come together as a complete platform for the proposed neobank, or are you needing to source other third parties for core functionality?
So was it Chris, was it? There is no doubt that in a technology sense, the banking unit will need to buy in a core banking platform, and the reason for that is so that the regulator APRA, and we've already gone through our technology architecture with them, but the regulator is putting a risk framework against everything for the bank. That's their method of judging the license, and they're particularly focused in the core banking architecture, and that in a risk sense, they want to make sure that depositors' funds are absolutely protected. So in a solution architecture sense, core banking is not really the tech we want to provide. We want to provide the smart tech on top whether that's AI or fraud management or some smart lending solutions or whatever. So that's really the super value add that we would focus on.
Just on a follow-up to that, Peter, I've got a question here from Connor. Can you provide an update in regards to the timing of the banking license?
Well, as per an announcement from a few weeks ago, we are on hold with APRA until March. We continue to, and that's, for all new licenses, we continue to work with APRA. We're still sort of developing some of the banking policies and in fact enhancing our license application. But as I've said, we're really ready, willing, and able. However, it's a hiatus until March.
No worries. Still got a few questions on the neobank, Peter. A question from Jesse. Can you speak to the vision of the neobank? For example, who is the target audience? What is the value prop? What is the market size?
Yeah, so look, I can be general on this. Our vision for the bank is essentially related to some of the other services we provide and some of the markets we deal in, which is a cross-border service. We have a lot of business relationships into Southeast Asia, China, India, Bangladesh, and so forth. And so we see a banking unit that very specifically addresses cross-border issues for consumers, businesses, and eventually trade finance.
Thanks, Peter. We got a group question from Taylor and who is it? Robert together. What strategic partnerships have you got in the pipeline? Are you planning further acquisitions like Immersion, and how progressed are you with these plans?
Again, sorry, I missed the two names, but again, a little bit forward thinking. I can't state some of that in a compliance sense, but I guess suffice to say, we are very, very active in driving new strategic partnerships, and in particular, there are global companies that are, all looking to transact in and out of Australia, and we've sort of stated that inorganic growth or acquisitions is a large part of us accelerating our growth. And as per the the fundraising from 6 weeks ago, we have a very, very strong balance sheet to be able to achieve this.
I've got a question from Peter. How much did COVID-19 impact the China payments business? How is it trending now?
Okay, Peter, great name, thank you. The China payments business has definitely been affected by COVID-19, and I think in particular for some of our partners, more than some of our partners who relied on in-store traffic. So, use case would be a Chinese tourist, or even some of the Chinese international students. There are just obviously vastly lesser of them in Australia than there were before. So a lot of that foot traffic business into physical stores where they were processing Alipay or WeChat payments has significantly reduced, in line with you could virtually model it in line with the reduction in tourist and international student numbers. In terms of our own business, ChinaPayments.com, the online business for bill payments and whatever, we've continued to get strong growth in that. I think that what's probably happened, and we can only sort of deduce it, is that we've had a reduction in growth, but we've still continued to have very strong growth. And related to that, the tighter integration with Alipay has further driven growth in that.
Speaking of Alipay, Peter, we've got a question from Jason. Does Novatti have exclusivity with Alipay and WeChat Pay?
No. So the answer to that's no. However, I guess some of the services we provide are very finely tuned to working with them, and we get a lot of support out of both of them.
Very good. Peter, got a question from Jeff. How does Novatti make money from Visa cards?
Okay, I think we've in part hit this before, but so essentially, nearly at whatever level we're working in, whether it be that VascoPay.com service or white label programs or the issuing, the bin sponsorship, in all cases we will take a fee up front, and then either transaction fees or what we call load fees, but it's ongoing fees. And what the model for everything to do with the Visa card business should be is that you're essentially building a proxy recurring income growth business. So as we bring on more and more partners or businesses or card users, it should be just a growing business off the same fixed cost base.
Thanks, Peter. Question here from Mark. What are the expected bank licensing costs in FY21?
Mark, so again, some of that would be forward thinking, but essentially we've dramatically reduced and managed our costs on the bank license. So let me go back. So if you look at last year's financials, the single biggest hit to the financials was all the works for the banking license, and that was people, legals, accountants, auditors, all sorts of costs. That has been dramatically reduced, as you would expect. The banking team, in fact, as part of our growth strategy, we've taken the staff in to help support some of the growth in the payments part of the business at the moment. We still have a couple of senior executives who manage our relationship with APRA and continue to work there. But the cost base will be, until the license is awarded, necessarily much lower.
Terrific. Peter, I've got another question here from Jesse. What are some of the key risks you foresee for Novatti in FY21?
I think, like any payments business, risks go around, maintenance of your banking facilities, your fraud control, your ability to maintain partnerships and continue to grow your business. Yes, and just I'd say just general financial management, and again, bringing in some of the executives from the bank team who've got extensive experience in a lot of those things. We've actually worked to mitigate a lot of those risks just by bringing in extra talent into what's becoming an increasing larger part of the business.
Thanks, Peter. We're just coming on up to about half an hour. We still have a few questions to work through, so I might just work through another probably 4 or 5. If anyone does have any final questions, if you please just enter them in the Q&A box now. We'll try and address them on the session. Otherwise, we'll get Peter to reach out afterwards. Peter, a bit more of a generalist one here. What is Novatti's core point of difference from your competitors?
I think that no one is absolutely unique, but let's call it strong points of difference. One is our focus on licenses. So we have an AFSL for non-cash payments in Australia. We've got a remittance network provider license here. We've got a money services business license in Canada. As we've said before, we're seeking an e-money issuing license in Europe. And in fact, we are working on a couple of other licenses in other jurisdictions. So licensing and compliance, we're really focused on, and we think that's just a really strong differentiator. In terms of tech, we've been building financial technology for a long time, and so essentially bringing more and more of that tech to face consumer and merchant problems. I think an interesting differentiator now, being the issue, an issue of a visa gives us a lot of credibility. Interestingly, being a public listed company and just the knowledge, the innate feeling of the governance structures also helps us win a lot of business. So, I would say a combination of compliance and tech and governance and just increasingly strong management and staff who sort of really believe in what we're doing.
Okay, Peter, I've got an accounting question here. Was the 270K of JobKeeper fully received in the June quarter and included in the results you released today?
Yeah, so JobKeeper we've treated on a cash basis, and we sort of actually record it as, I think, other income or a similar definition. So we actually separate that out from any of the growth charts or whatever that we do in terms of quarterly revenue and whatever. That's kept out and only shown in sort of our final annual accounting.
Thanks, Peter. I'm just going to go through 2 or 3 more questions. I've got one here from Jason. How long will the current cash last until you'll look to raise again?
Jason, there are zero plans to be raising more cash. We are absolutely, we keep using the words fully funded, but you could see from the last quarter we got down to $16,000 of cash consumption. We've sort of indicated that we're driving hard, and so even if that increased a bit, it's not going to make, let's call it a significant dent in the funds that we raised and have available, and those funds are truly for super growth, let's say. So zero intentions.
Thanks, Peter. One here from Toro. Is Novatti the only company that partners with Split Pay and authorized by Visa?
So Split Pay in the UK, yes, we are their underlying tech provider and a shareholder. Split Pay will be processing through a UK. They need to process through a UK merchant acquirer or payment processing business. And I think the second thing was in terms of Visa. No, Visa have a number of principal issuer partners in Australia. Obviously, e-merchants is one, but a number of other companies. One that's just actually gone out of business, Wirecard. But no, Visa have multiple partners, all of whom have gone through a very significant assessment processes to their financial viability, governance, business plans, and so forth. So it's not an insignificant process to get awarded that status.
Terrific, Peter. I'm just going to give you one more question here from Rob, and then we'll look to bring the session to a close. Rob has asked, Peter, as the founder, can you explain how the name Novatti came about?
Okay. Look, it really, and I guess the first part is Nova, new, and TTI was an earlier name for the business. So it all sounds very sort of Romance language, Italian or Spanish or something, but it's a made-up word. And but unfortunately, it must be a Novatti clan, I think, in Argentina in particular, and they're very annoyed that we have Novatti.com and they don't. So it was a made-up word, but thank you for that.
Fantastic. I think that'll probably clarify it for quite a few people. Alrighty, now that we've ticked over 35 minutes for the session, we will bring it to a close. If anyone does have any other questions, I'll just pull up Peter's contact details on the screen again. Peter does welcome investors, shareholders, and analysts to contact him directly. So please, if you have any questions that weren't addressed on the session, please feel free to send them through to Peter. Firstly, I'll thank everyone for attending, taking time out of your day, very busy time for the market. And Peter, obviously, you've been very generous with your time here, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of all the attendees for answering all those questions.
Thank you all. Thanks, Alfred.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, guys.